What's up, guys? Alright, so yesterday we were doing the Contest Mayor's full walkthrough, and I got kind of pissed off when I finished the first one because I have two pairs of headphones, and one of them I stepped on the other day and I broke the earpiece. And so I couldn't remember which ones were broken, and I had both of them out, and apparently I had plugged in the ones that I had sitting on my lap underneath my leg was the one that was actually plugged into the phone, and the one that was sticking out of my ear was the one that was apparently plugged into nothing. So I was like, dude, I did not seriously just talk for an entire fucking hour and it didn't hear anything. So I went through and I played the video and I'm like, damn, I'm so glad I got a good mic. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my god, I was pissed. So I was going to just jump right into it and do the second one, but then after I got really pissed off, I decided to say no. But anyways, it ended up working out. It was able to be heard even under my 5,000-pound thigh. But anyways, okay, so let's go with what we were doing yesterday. So yesterday we were talking about the Contest of Mayors and what you need to know to be successful at picking your tasks. Now, let's go down to where we were at here. We had already went through most of the, hang on here. We had went through most of the assignments, right? That's what I was gonna say, attacks, because I just read that. Assignments, where you need to know what you need to know about each task. So you're going to have this quick guide with you, probably quite a bit for the first, I don't know, eternity until you figure this shit out. But basically, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to, go back to the guide, refer back to the guide, and then read what you know about each task after you do your task breakdown. Now, me, I do the task breakdowns really quick in my head. And so I've had to kind of stop and think, okay, what do I do in my head? What goes on in my head to where I can explain it to you guys so you can do it in your head? And the best way that I can explain it is doing a task breakdown is going to be the easiest way to determine what you need to rotate. So as we talked about in the first video, where you make them, you take them and you put them into certain categories. Ever notice how certain assignments, or certain choices, I should say, are super, super easy and you just know you made the right one? Well, that's what we call a main task, or what Missy calls a main task. So if you have a 3K VU, that's an obvious choice, right? I mean, it's 3,000 points, it's VU, it's why not, right? That's a main task. A 3,000 VU compared to a 2,500 beach, which one do? You do the VU, it's higher, right? But if you have a 2,500 beach compared to a 2,500 mountain, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. You just do either one. So essentially, those are all main tasks, though. You're not going to do beach over VU. So you have to go based on a certain criteria where you say, okay, these are all main tasks, but do all main tasks have the same, how to explain this? If you have 3 main tasks in front of you, what do you do to eliminate which one is the right choice? You go by value, right? So, like I just said before, if you have a beach for 2,500, a VU for 3,000, then obviously VU would be the right choice because of points values. So oftentimes people will make mistakes because they decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and do the beach real quick because I can just do it fast and then I'll get to the VU. That is a bad choice to make. Why? Even though you're going to do the beach anyways. Why is that a wrong choice? Because you have a 3,000 point task sitting above it. So with that sitting there, when you do the beach, you want to make sure that when you complete a task that you have a lot of options open to you. You want to make sure that you have as many place values and opportunities available to you for high tasks to come in. If you allow that 3K VU to sit while you do a beach task, it's going to cause you nothing but problems because, I mean, it could result in something, a decent main task, but it more than likely won't because you have a 3,000 point task already in your list, right? So you just want to give that extra security in opening up those place values so you know, hey, I'm not getting these tasks because I have too many high values. every time you guys start rotating stuff and you go a while without getting anything good, you have to look at why you're not getting anything good. Do you have too many high values, or do you have too many do you not have any opportunity? Things of that nature. And the best way to do that is to go through your list and to break it down from main, rotatable to no touch. And so that's going to change periodically, throughout the contest. Once you can break it down into main versus rotatable, this is going to be the easiest method you guys do. You've got your main tasks, you've got your rotatable tasks. You almost never do your rotatables before your main, because they're your main, right? Why would you rotate in a 800 chairs if you have a 3K VU and a 2500 beach sitting at the top? You wouldn't. That would be stupid, right? Okay. So you do all of your main tasks, okay? Once you don't have anything that screams out at you that says this is the main choice, like this is it. So let's say you're looking at your list and it's like 1200 Latin upgrade, 1K VU, 2K upgrade, just stupid shit like that. Nothing like 6K war deliveries or something, or war card upgrade. And I said that because it's double points this week. But 3K war upgrade for a card or whatever, that is a main task, okay? Because it's 3,000 points. It's something that you would do over pretty much anything else in your list. Once all of your obvious choices are gone, that's when rotation kicks in. Okay, that's when you have to look at your list and say, all right, I've got all these tasks at the bottom that could open up something good. So if you have, let's say you're looking at your list and you have like a 1200 repair, 1200 keys, but you have a 900 paint. Which one poses a better opportunity for you? The paint, right? You're taking 300 points less, but when you rotate out the paint, it actually has a chance of bringing in something of a decent value. Whereas, yes, you could do the keys and get something good in return, but for how long? The keys is always going to come back at some point, right? Same with the repair. So then what happens? After you do a couple of tasks, you've taken down some points on your average, and you've done whatever tasks it gives you, and then you get your repair back. Okay, now you are faced with the same exact situation that you were originally in, and that is comparing the repair to the paint. Except for now you're like 3-4 tasks in the hole and your average has been dropped. So now you're like, well, that didn't work that time, let's try the paint this time. You do the paint and you get something decent. That means that you should go with the second option first because it resulted in something better, right? So it doesn't make sense if you can predict that you're going to get that task back within X amount of tasks, then you need to ask yourself, why is it appropriate to pick that task now rather than later? Like, do you know how many lists I've assessed where people make a mistake and I'm like, well, that was a mistake, and then like within 3 or 4 tasks it comes back and they're faced with that exact same decision. Like their list looks exactly the same as it did when they made the choice to do the repair of the keys. And then they look and they do something different this time. They do what they should have done the first time. And you go to that person for an explanation. And you're like, all right, why when you were faced with this exact scenario did you pick the repair? Then three tasks later, you were faced with the exact same scenario, but you picked something different. Why? What changed here? And they just look dumbfounded like, well, it didn't work the first time. Exactly. That's exactly the point. Because if you go back to the guide and you look, it says right here, this task should be left to sit until all high premiums have been done, right? Or if it's worth 2K or higher, you would do it. Now, for example, let's say it comes down to a 2K repair versus a 1300 chairs. You would do the repair because it holds that 2K placement, right? So when people say opportunity, again, you guys need to remember that opportunity also is held in the value placements. So when people say, well, they're looking at value and opportunity as if they're two totally separate things. And they are, but they're also the same thing, right? So you're looking at like, okay, this one has a value of 1,300, and this one has a value of 2,000. Okay, so you're looking at value. So you go, okay, opportunity trumps value. So if opportunity trumps value, why are you doing your stuff when it's at a certain threshold? And that threshold is the 2K threshold, right? So that's when you say, because when you do tasks of that value, you open up additional opportunities. Does that make sense? So when you do a 1,300 task, you open up the opportunity, yes. But when you do, let's say it was a 2,000 chairs task, now you're doing it for value and you're doing it for opportunity. Now the value, because it's been done, you've opened up that 2K placement. You only get so many 2K assignments, which means that by doing that task, you've opened up additional opportunities. So even though the repair will come back after, so many tasks, the point is you opened up that 2K spot, right? For other tasks to come in. If you have a 2K gold keys and a 2K repair, and you just allow them to sit forever and work on 800 chairs, you're going to just block off a bunch of stuff. Now, a lot of times what people have trouble with is knowing when to do a 1,600 repair or keys. The 1,600 ones are tricky because they're so close to 2,000 points and they're right around the 2,000 threshold. Those ones need rotated more often. You're not going to do them, immediately, like right away. So let me explain it like this, okay? And I'll try to edit the guide as well. So let's say you have a 2,000 or higher repair. That automatically puts it into the higher rotation bracket, like needs done, relatively soon. That's a main task because it's 2,000 points or higher. So you would look at that and say, okay, the next time that I have something of less opportunity and less value or equal value, then I'll rotate in the repair. Meaning that if you have a 2,000 chairs task, then the opportunity for the chairs is better than for the repair because chairs doesn't normally come back, right? So after the chairs are done, let's say you get a 1,600 melons task. Do you do the 2K repair or do you do the melons? You would do the 2K repair. But let's say you had a 1,600 repair and a 1,600 melons. Which one do you do then? You do the melons because they open up better opportunity than the repair, right? Now let's say you have an 800 chair and a 1,600 repair. Or let's say melon. Let's say it's an 800 melon versus a 1,600 repair. Why are you doing repair over melons now? Because of points value. Okay, so place value. But what if it was 1,200 repair over an 800 melon? You would do the melon. Why? Because now the repair is at its lowest value, right? So now it's like it's not going to be in your list for anything lower than that, right? So that being said, if you do it now, it's just going to come back higher, making it more likely to need rotated. So the 1,200 to 1,600 ones are a little tricky. More often than not, you let them sit unless you start to run out of rotatable options that open up better opportunities. Now, when you do the 1,600 repairs, it's usually because, like I said, you have no other rotatable options, or you have a lot of tasks sitting right around that value. This is why seeing the entire list is super important, because let's say that you're looking at a 1,600 design challenge, a 1,600 regular residential, and a 1,600 repair, then a 1,200 keys, and a 1,400 coin, a 1,500 monster. Okay, so you're starting to notice a pattern here. Everything is right around 1,400 to 1,600 value, meaning that the opportunities of getting higher value tasks is starting to get slimmer and slimmer. You need to clear out some of those right around the 1,500 value range to open up better opportunities. So looking at a list like this, you would say, okay, I need to rotate in that anything I can of that value. Coins normally always comes back, and it's very unlikely that it's going to come back worth much lower than the 1,400. It's usually about 1,100 to 1,700, which would still put it in the same bracket. So you would want to go with the repair because it's at 1,600 and it has a higher chance of coming back with a higher value than the coins, but has a same amount of opportunity as coming back of that lowest value of coins. So if repair can be 1,200 to 2,400 and coins can only be 1,100 to 1,700, then the opportunity for better value tasks comes with the doing that repair, but then you still hold on to the hope that eventually it's going to rotate in for a lower value, and that way you can proceed on getting those premiums. But ultimately, the goal is to run a 2K average. So if you happen to get a situation where you have a 1,600 repair versus a 1,600 keys, then you look at, okay, what do we know about the keys versus the repair? We're going to compare these two tasks. So you're going to do your list breakdown. You're going to say, okay, all my main tasks are gone. Now I'm just working with rotatables. Cross off anything that's no touch, look at your rotatables and say, okay, out of these rotatable options, I do have, let's say you have a keys and a repair at the bottom for 1,600. That would normally be a no-touch task for the moment, but because of the bracket of value, you're going to put it into the rotation bracket, but as a last option rotatable, same as coins, okay? So coins and repair and keys are all like last option rotatables. So the thing is, though, with it being at 1,600 points, you need to ask yourself, by looking at the rest of your list, what are you comparing it to? Like how many other tasks are of that value? So if it comes between a keys and a repair for 1,600, which one opens up the best opportunity? The keys. The keys normally does not come back as quickly as the repair. When it does, it usually comes back worth a higher value than the repair. Okay, so more often than not, you're going to get higher valued keys and you're going to get lower valued repairs. So if you have to pick between the two, then you go with the keys. Now, all of this is kind of explained here, except for I went a little bit more in depth this time. This one here is, and again, I'm going to fix any typos that are here, but this one here, the coins, this one is a little bit trickier for people. So the coins is not always in your list. It's not like the monster where it's like, yeah, that thing's going to be there. This one is, it's usually in the list, right? But a lot of people have a tendency to run to this one because it's so easy to complete. You want to use this as the last option when it comes to rotation. So a lot of times what will happen is when you get near, let's say, 20 tasks remaining plus tickets, sometimes what will happen is you guys will have a list where you just have like nothing going on. You know, your list is just full of low valued upgrades or mid-range upgrades. You've got some, like a monster, maybe some other things you can't do or whatever, and then you have the gold coins. So you have to think, basically, when you rotate in coins is when you have no other real options going for you, but you have to ask yourself, how long do you see being able to work your list the way that it is? So let's say that you're at like 10 tasks remaining and you're in a shitty situation like that. Then it would be okay to go ahead and do the gold coins. But let's say you have like 40 tasks remaining and you're in a shitty situation like that. Does it make sense to do the gold coins then? Not really. Why? Because you have to look at how long do you see being able to work your list the way that it is. That's another thing that a lot of people have trouble with. So when you look at your list, and I look at some people's lists and they have 40 assignments left, and I'm going, they can't play the rest of the contest of mayors like this. There's no way. They've got to open up something, because they're looking at like usually about 3 upgrades around 2K. They've got some other low upgrades, some monsters, some like an 800 epic at the bottom, maybe something like a really low repair and a really low keys, and you're just looking at it going, man, there's nothing here. And you're thinking, you pull out the only 1 or 2 rotatable options, and you look at it and you go, do you really see working 2 place values for 60 tasks at 40 plus tickets, so 55 tasks? No. So that's when you need to ask yourself, okay, let's analyze these upgrades and get those cleaned out. And we're going to talk about upgrades here in just a little bit. But that's just the general idea. So usually when it comes time to rotate in the coins, you need to ask yourself, is there any other doorways that you can open up? Okay, monster. This one is very, very simple, okay? It's always in your list, and it's a limited assignment, meaning, actually I'm not going to call it limited. It's not a limited assignment. It's a assignment that can only be done at a certain time, which makes it extremely difficult. Same with the design challenge assignments. Okay, so basically, if you do this assignment and you kill the monster, or you don't have enough health to do it again, when, not if, but when it comes back, then you just end up screwed. So if that thing's always in the list, and you can only do it when the game allows you to do it, because you can only do it when it's in your city. This makes it very difficult for you to clear it out once it's holding that 2K value. So here's the rule with the monster. Because of this, you need to make sure that you have that 2K placement taken care of. Okay, you need to make sure that one of your 4 chairs, I'm going to call them chairs for 2K values, is not being held by the stupid monster. If this is in your list worth 2,000 points or higher, it needs done as soon as you get the opportunity to do it. Okay, meaning, let's say you have a 2,500 monster and 2,500 beach. Okay, and the monster's there. Get it done. Get it out of the way, and then do the beach. If you have a 3,000 war deliveries and a 2,500 monster, then you would do the war deliveries first, right? Okay, because it's worth 3,000 points, but you need to get the monster done before it leaves and before you do anything else. Now, this will hopefully, when it comes back, it will come back of less than 2,000 points. If you are fortunate enough to get it in your list off the bat, with it being less than 2,000 points, do not touch it. So if it's under 2,000 points, you do not touch it under any circumstances. The only circumstance in which you would touch this task under 2,000 points would be like if it's your very last assignment and it's higher than anything else in your list. That would be the only way. Okay? So basically, if it's less than 2,000 points, do not touch it. Now, this week we had double points for war assignments and double points for monster assignments. What a lot of people made the mistake of is because it was double points, they saw it at that 2K value. And they did it, and they shouldn't have, because now it has the ability to come in worth 5,000 points. And if it comes in worth 5,000 points and you can't do it because you already did it, then you're screwed. And that was the lowest value it could be in your list. So you had it sitting there of its lowest value. Now you're stuck waiting, and you're stuck with this 5,000 point task you can't do. So now you're stuck either having to cancel it or having to wait on it, both of which cause horrible problems for your score. If you allow it to sit and you proceed on, it blocks future things from popping up and lowers your average unbelievably so. If you cancel it and it comes back and it doesn't come back of a low value which you already had it at, then you're screwed. So now you doing that 2,000 point task, you gain nothing from it because you had to cancel, right? So you dropped your average to the point where you should have just left it sit to begin with. That's what happened this week. Okay, so for those of you who have it in your list worth 2,000 points with the double points week, don't touch it. Now, when I say double points week, I mean the double points week for the in general, like the last part of each, whatever you call it. So at the end of every pass, you have a double points week. So this week they just did a war and monster double points, but it's the same general concept anytime you have that at a double points value. Okay, production, tasks, and shops. All right, we're going to talk about the shop productions. These ones are a little trickier because most of these are not technically premium. They don't go up to 3,000 points. We consider them premium because they're a main category in which you're rotating. Let's see. These tasks can pop up in multiples, Okay, so you can get multiple productions for the same shop. Let's say you get planks, you can also get paint. That's what I mean by that. You should prep any of these tasks if you think the points are low, even if you think the points are low. Why? Because here's what happens. People work their main tasks. Let's say, like I said, let's just go back to the list that I've been using. So we've got 3000 VU and the 2500 beach. Those are the main tasks, right? But let's say that you have melons at the bottom for 920 points. What do? Do you just sit and do nothing? Or do you say, okay, I already know that once I finish up my main tasks, I'm going to need to rotate in the melons. Now, at this point is when you need to determine whether or not it is more beneficial for you to sit what you've already prepped because it's worth more time if you get an assignment, or if you need to click one and put one down, right? And I've talked about this in some of the other videos. So basically, let's say you prepped ladders and you got a assignment for 10 hammers. Are you going to clear out that many ladders for 10 hammers prematurely? No. You're going to wait and see if you get a ladders task. But let's say that you did corn and you get a melons task, and it's of an equal time value. Then what do? Do you clear out the corn and start making melon? Or do you wait? Or what do you do? What you would do, because it's of a similar value, you would collect one corn and put down one melon. And you would rotate them out one at a time. That way, if for any reason you did happen to get a corn assignment, you wouldn't have cleaned out all of them right away. You would be able to say, okay, corn came in for higher than the melons, so I'm going to go back and start putting down corn, and then maybe you only had messed up and put down 2 or 3 melons. But either way, they were being worked on so that if the corn didn't come in, that you saved yourself a little bit of time there, or a lot of time. But the point being is that a lot of people make this mistake where they see, and I can't tell you, it's almost always my new trainees where they're like, well, the chairs are 800 or the paint's only 1,000, so I already know that I'm never going to do those. It's like, what? What do you mean you're never going to do those? Those are your rotatables. Those are absolutely going to be getting done, you know? So or they say, oh, they're too low to touch. No, they're not. They are too low to touch right now because you have higher main options. But once those main options are gone and you have nothing left that you can do that's higher than that, you need to open up possibilities. And that's when you would do those and rotate those in to get those premiums to come in. Okay? So, factory production. This one is really tricky. Now, you guys pay very close attention, okay? So here's the thing with factory production. Not all factory production is the same algorithm. For instance, and this is what you need to know, is I'm going to read to you what it says in the guide, and then I'll explain the best that I can so that you guys can hopefully understand how to rotate, how to do factory productions. So the only factory production worth 3,000 points is electrical, but you will treat this as a premium. However, each factory item has its own set of rules, okay? So, metal, wood, plastic, seeds, and minerals are all items under 30 minutes. These can be cleared as needed. So basically, if you get a seeds task for 1,700 or metal for 1,600, they're almost always right around 1,600 points. Then you can go ahead and those are good tasks to rotate in. You have multiple factory tasks, but not of the same item. So what that means is that you can have seeds, metal, and wood all in your list at the same time. Okay. Now this one is where a lot of people have trouble. Chemicals is normally worth about 1,200 to 2,000 points. This task has a tendency to reappear almost all the damn time, okay? So, if you see if this task is around 2,000 points, you should plan to do it to open up that 2K spot. If you see no other better options, however, this task should be done. If it doesn't, or shouldn't be done, should be done if it doesn't meet the 1700 threshold. Typically, your list consists of 2 3K tasks, 4 2K tasks, 1700 to 2000, and then 1K to 1600 is the remaining tasks. Then one worth 800 or lower. Okay, so basically what I'm saying here is, and this is where a lot of people have it's tricky, so I'm going to go ahead and edit the guide here as well. So right around 1600 is the threshold for the 2K tasks when it comes to the way that the list breakdown is. So if you look at the way that the list is, you notice how you never have like 4 3K tasks in your list. It just doesn't happen, right? Well, then you have to look at like what are the possibilities that are available to you. So if you have a list that's full of tasks right around, let's say 1200 to 1400 points, then you have quite a bit of opportunity for higher tasks to come in. If you have a list where you have a lot of 2K tasks and tasks right around 1600 points, those also are right around the threshold where the 2K task placement is a problem. Okay, so what this means is a lot of people, what'll happen is they'll get a chemicals task for like 1680, and it still technically meets that 2K threshold. I mean, it's more on the lower end of things, of course, but depending on what's in your list, you may need to do that chemicals task. However, the problem with the chemicals is they almost always come back. So what happens is people will try to do them when they're worth like 1200, 1300, 1400, or 1500. And then what happens is they come right back, and usually they either come in with like 1900 points or super low, and then they're right back in their list again. If they don't meet that 1700 threshold, which, and like I've said, and I'm going to put this in the guide, that would be between 1600 and 1700 is okay. So like 1640 is still technically like right around 1700, right? It's only 60 points difference. So if it meets that, and if it's one round or even 2 rounds, okay, you may need to rotate that in if you don't have many other open options. Keep that in mind so that if let's say you're looking at your list and you have nothing prepped in your factories, but you see that you have quite a bit of other tasks that are going to be keeping you busy for at least the next hour or 2. Go ahead and put down the chemicals so that you can at least have those done if you need to do them. But that is going to be one of the most tricky things that you guys deal with is the factory tasks. Now, here's the next thing. Glass does not normally come in repeatedly. However, it's usually, because it takes so damn long to make, normally it's 1 round, and normally it's right around like 1300 to 1400 points. So what I usually tell people to do is the night before the contest, prep feed. Okay, because feed doesn't come back as often, and it normally comes back in of a higher value, usually right around 1600 to 1900 points. So let's say that you are, and this happens a lot, let's say that you are working on your stuff and it's maybe 2 hours before bedtime and you wanted to get a few more things done, but you know that your next choice is something that takes a really long time. Depending on the situation, you can rotate in other options and still be okay. But let's say that you've hit a wall, okay, and you've got a 1300 glass and a 1280 feed. Do the feed over the glass. Why? Even though you have enough time to do the glass, why? Because if it comes back, feed takes less time than glass, right? So, or no, swap that. So, you're going to do the feed because it takes more time than glass, but it comes back less frequently. So, you guys, how do I explain this? Okay. More often than not, go with feed. Okay? So, when you prep the beginning of your week, like the very first round of everything, prep feed. But let's say that you have to look at the amount that you have to prep and what level that person is. Most of you guys are under level 24, and you have right around 40 factory slots. So if you get something for, let's say, 45, okay, what you can do is you can prep the second half first. So let's say that you, like I said, let's just say you have a task to make 55 feet. You're going to go ahead and prep 15 of them, or you can throw down a couple extra just in case, so like 17 of them. And then once the first round is done, you have 17 done. That's the second half of your feed. This allows you to keep other factory slots open during this time in case you get a metal or a seeds task or whatever. Okay? Then, if nothing better presents itself right before bed, you would collect the second half first. Okay? So this means that you would need 40 more, right? So before bed, you lay down the other 40 feed and you pick those up in the morning. That way you don't drop down 40 feed and then you wanted to get some stuff done and all of a sudden you get a metals task and you can't do it because you filled your stuff up with feed. You should have done the second half first, right? Now, what you can do, and this would be more for an experienced player, would be to prep half of each kind just in case. So like let's say that you had a produce 55 glass and a produce 55 feed. You could do half of one, half of the other, but that would be like if they were right around the same value, depending on what was going on in your list, you could do something like that. But more often than not, I tell people to do the feed. Okay, because it has a less likely chance of coming in. Now, electrical, most of you guys don't have that unlocked, but if you do, then prepping electrical would be a good option because that one actually has a likelihood of coming in worth 3,000 points, and it usually comes in worth a higher value. So for those of you who do have it unlocked, prep electrical. Okay, let's see. So in here, basically what this means is that this is the hard part that I was going to explain to you guys. Usually, you don't want to clear any feed or glass tasks unless that are less than 1,600 points, unless you have no other options. So usually when this happens is when I'm looking at someone's list and they have a 1,300 glass, 1,300 feed, 1,200 textiles, 1,200 chemicals, and then they've got upgrades and monsters and coins, and they have nothing left. Like all of their rotatable options are all factory productions. So textiles is better than chemicals. Okay, those ones don't normally come in repeatedly, not like chemicals. And when they do, they have the ability to be worth more than 2,000 points. So if you have that, textiles and feed are going to be the ones that you guys rotate the most. But typically, if they're less than 1,600 points, only start rotating those in if you have like 3 or more in your list, or if you start to see you're running out of a lot of rotatable options. If you have a really nice list, like 1,200 melon, an 800 ladder, a 3,000 war card upgrade, 2,000 war card attack, that's a lot of rotatable options. There's no sense in there's no sense in completing anything you don't have to. So you can prep it, but don't necessarily collect it, right? Okay, so earn coins. We already talked about that one. War booster. This one is a little bit trickier. Okay, so this one is in your list worth 1,000 points. And this one, it used to be that this one was always in the list, like the monster task, but since then they've changed the algorithm of this task. It doesn't come in very often. When it does, it usually results in a 3K task or a really nice valued task. Now, that being said, when you rotate this in, you need to be careful, because if you don't have any upgrades in your list at all, or just like one, it's a very good possibility that when you rotate that in, it's going to kick you a 3K upgrade. Okay, so what you want to do is, if you have the opportunity to allow it to sit until you at least have a couple of upgrades built up in your list, then rotate it in. But make sure those upgrades are of a lower value. Now, you don't want to hold off on this rotation of this particular task because it's a war task. So if you don't complete it during war and it sits there, you're gonna have big problems. That is a really good doorway to open up for a nice high value task. Like I said, just make sure that the possibility of getting a high valued upgrade is less than. Okay, next one. House upgrades. Now this is what I've been dreading, okay? I hate having to explain how this works. Because we're at 40 minutes and this is a little bit more complex, we're going to go ahead and end this video here, and then I'll do part 3 and we'll talk about the upgrades. But before that, I want to go ahead and let you guys know that the airport homes are not to be done at all on the Missy's Building Guide. So if you're following my guide, you should not be doing any of the airport homes upgrades whatsoever. Okay, epic task. Let's talk about that one real quick. So the epic task, this one is a little bit trickier as well. So this one comes in values of 800, 1200, 1600, 2000, 2400. That being said, it's technically a non-premium task because it can't be worth 3000 points. Typically, what happens is it's a good doorway to open up, kind of like cargo, right? So it doesn't always come right back, but with epic, once you do it once, it usually comes in, I want to say 2 or 3 times before it tapers off and doesn't come back ever again. That being said, because this is a limited task on the Missy's Building Guide, meaning once you convert all of your homes to epic projects, you won't be able to how do I explain this? You won't be able to do any more until you level up. And so you need to save as many of these as you can. What this means is, let's say that you do a 800 epic task. You need to stop and wait and leave about 2 hours to finish up your epic if you need to. But let's say you do an 800 point epic task, you rotate it in, and you don't get another epic task. Great, then just let it sit, and if as long as you didn't hit bronze, the house will go back to a normal home. That is what you should do, okay? But let's say that you do the 800 epic and you get a 1600 epic about a couple tasks later. That's why you need to save those epic points. So you're going to do that one, you're going to wait, and you're going to save them. You're going to save as many epic points as you can before completing that epic so that you don't have to burn up another house. Plus there's a 12-hour cooldown, okay? So let's say that you have 50 points left on your epic. Save it and make sure that you don't get another epic task. If you get another one that maybe you can't do, let's say it's a 60 point epic task, finish up the epic. Don't do 50 points and then 10 on the next one, because that's too much downtime. Okay, you have to just finish up your epic and then deal with that task on a whole new epic, because what'll happen is you'll end up earning those 50 points and you'll have started that assignment, and then you'll end up stuck for 12 hours while it's on a cooldown until you can start a new epic. Don't do that. So that's how that works, but that is a good one to... Here's the problem though, like if you can avoid doing it at 800 points, try to rotate something else, because of the fact that if it continues to pop up, then you're burning through your limited tasks, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. If it's at 1200 points or higher, it should be rotated at some point during the contest. More than likely you will end up rotating it. The only time usually that it sits for the whole contest is when it's around 800 points. Okay, so let's see. Delivery tasks. These are non-premium and premiums. What this means is the Tokyo and London are premium, and the Paris technically is not. They should be done if worth 2,000 points or higher, or should be rotated as needed if worth less than 1,200 points. These ones are good tasks to rotate in. So, that being said, a 1,000 Tokyo opens up excellent opportunity, okay? Because that task has the ability to be worth 3,000 points, same as the London. So if you have a London deliveries for 2K, then that would be a main task, right? Because it's one of your main options. If you have a 1,000 Tokyo, then that's a rotatable task. So then you would say, okay, it falls into the rotatable bracket. Anything less than 2,000 points is considered pretty much rotatable. Anything 2,000 points or higher is considered a main task. Okay, so that being said, if you have an 800 Paris versus an 800 cargo, which one holds better opportunity? They're right around the same, actually. Paris holds better opportunity, a little bit more than cargo. Why? Paris comes back a little bit more frequently, but it has the ability to be worth 2,400, whereas cargo only has the ability to be worth 1,800. So if you have to rotate an 800 Epic versus an 800 Paris, you would pick Paris, because even though Paris has the ability to be worth 2,400, and Epic also has the ability to be worth 2,400, the Epic is a limited task, right? And it's on a cooldown, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, so you would go with Paris over Epic. So you start to learn what you learn about each task, and once you learn the tasks and how to understand, you know, their algorithms and the values and the capabilities, then the best, like I said, the best method, the easiest method that I've been able to teach so far is the main versus rotatable. So for those of you guys who are still having a little bit of trouble understanding all this, think of it like that, okay? You've got main tasks versus rotatables. Anything 2,000 points or higher is main, anything lower than that is rotatable, and then you would go based off of what you know about each task when rotating. Okay, now, cargo. This task can be worth 1,800 points max, so it's non-premium. Let's see, it doesn't pop up a whole lot. I mean, it's not like a task that comes back like coins or monsters, so it does come back, it can, but if it's worth 1,800 points, it's met that 2K threshold, therefore it needs cleared, okay? So if you're doing 2K keys over an 1,800 cargo, that would make sense because it's 2K. But let's say you've got a 1,600 keys versus an 1,800 cargo. Of course, you're going to go with cargo. Better opportunity, better value. If you have a 1,760 seeds versus cargo, you're going to go with cargo, okay? It's higher. Then you'll deal with seeds. So probably do cargo while you prep seeds. You know, just be smart about shit like that, right? All right, so this next video, part 3, we're going to talk about upgrades. I hate upgrades. You have no idea. It's such a pain in the ass. There's so much to learn when it comes to dealing with upgrades. All right, so if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. We hit 1,300 subscribers a couple days ago, I think. But anyways, yeah, so hit the subscribe button, the like button. If you guys are on Reddit, Facebook, you can always share my videos. I've shown you guys how to do that already. You just click on the video, the 3 dots, and like up here, and then click share, copy link, and you can paste that link in the comment section of, you know, Facebook groups or whatever. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, which video is it? You know, I always keyword my videos, so if you're looking for something specific on my channel, you know, like group rules or whatever, type in whatever it is you're looking for and then type MissyAnne after it, and it should pop up right away. I also have everything on playlists, so you guys should be able to find it that way. I'm going to go through and organize those just a little bit better, but essentially you get the idea. All right, so part 3 will be coming up hopefully today. I'm going to go right to record it right when I end this video, so as long as I don't get frustrated and smash my head on the steering wheel from trying to explain this, then we should be good to go, and it should be up later today.